So guys, I finally uploaded my Vim config to GitHub. You can find it here, and it doesn't have anything in the README yet. Give me some time to write it, but I'm gonna show you right here, okay? If I press Lead E, that brings me to my Vim config, and this is the personal part, okay? These are the things, well, your preferences, you could say, right? This is not very relevant apart of the fact that I've changed my key mappings to goalMag DH here. But let's go to the interesting part. The interesting part of this config, you have two interesting parts actually. You have base, where is the place you would define what you would consider the core part of your Vim config, okay? Again, more preferences, but this is like general preferences anyone can use and enjoy. And then the other interesting part is the plugins config. This is the good part. So here you have an index of all the plugins included here. Okay, this is a typo, by the way. And I'm gonna try to show you as many of these plugins as I can, but the interesting part for someone who code using Vim would be the plugins that turn Vim kinda into an ID. Okay, that would be Vimcock, which is, yeah, funny name. That's a part of Vim, and I'm gonna, by the way, this plugin you are seeing here is Vim Which Key, which I find super useful, because with Vim you are gonna be using so many key bindings. And you can see here that if I press C, that brings me to the key bindings of this plugin, Vimcock, okay? And what you do with this basically is to have syntax highlighting and auto completion and a lot of good stuff for the languages you use, okay? And let's see if I can remember what's the key binding to show you. Yeah, the extensions I have installed is the letter E, okay? And I have this installed. I have the JS/ TypeScript stuff here and some Python, and they are only gonna kick in when you are using the language, so there's no problem in having a few of them. So that's the most important part for me, okay? If you don't have this, I mean, the next part would be Vim Inspector, which you can see here is a debugger, and here I only have, let's open something different, okay? It's gonna be more exciting if I show you directly with an example project I have here. Okay, and this is an Angular front end, for example. And if you are in your project and you go to your key bindings and you find debugger, that is Vim Inspector, okay? It's a debugger. Then you have a lot of options related with the debugger here, and you might be thinking, do I need to know all these key bindings to use it? Well, it will be ideal, but no, you don't. Let's just press H to start debugging. And it's asking me some questions, okay, because I haven't set up anything yet. But even without setting up anything, you can already see the debugger here. And the thing is, you can just like press it like an user interface, right? Even though Vim is running in the terminal. Oh, right, it's asking me more stuff. Well, okay, I don't have this specific debugger configure. For that, you should go to the bin config. But at least I can show you that you can stop, you can insert the breakpoints, right? Let's do that. Yeah, with the letter B, you can insert a breakpoint, and then it will stop here when I run the debugger. So that's a very neat thing to have. And you can see the debugger actually runs in a different tab, so you can go back to your code and to the debugger quite easily. Okay, so that's another cool thing. You don't actually need to have a debugger in Vim, but it's really nice that you don't have to go to well, any other specific tool for that, because it works very well. Now you have another extension to compile and run your programs. Again, this is something you don't need to do, and in fact, I normally prefer to just do term, to open a terminal and run it myself interactively, or just the key binding lead tt, and you have the same thing. So yeah, that's fine to have. Then you have Vim test to run your unit testing and end-to-end test. Let's see what key binding I have for this. Actually, I think I have it under debugger too, maybe. Yeah, indeed. Right, I'm not sure what this means, but I kinda had a predefined stuff here already. Okay, the thing with this is you write the name of the plugin, like Vim test, for example, and you can see the configuration I have here, and ideally you should adapt it to your own personal taste, because sometimes for different projects you are going to be using different end-to-end tools or different unit testing frameworks, and that's why I have weird key bindings here, because they change quite often. Okay, so take a look into that. And this is a plugin I coded myself, by the way. This is Vim Oxygen, and I also called it Vim type doc, which is the one I'm gonna be using as an example. What is this stuff for? Well, you have it here. It's for project documentation, both of this. Let's try it. Let's try it, what you can do with that. Let's say I am in my TypeScript Angular project again. Okay, and something you can do with this is, well, for starters, this plugin configures documentation automatically for you, which is quite handy. You don't need to go project by project configuring your documentation, because I found that's a thing that make you use documentation less often, and that's not a good thing. So assuming you already have it automatically configured for this project, let's press Ctrl H. Okay, and I'm gonna bring it here, and that open type doc in this case, because we are on TypeScript. But if we were on C# or any of the, let's look for this. Okay, here it is. If you can say, if I'm using one of these languages, use Vim Oxygen, and if I'm using TypeScript, use TypeDoc. And that's what we are doing, because we are using TypeScript. This is detecting it, and when we press Ctrl H, it's opening the documentation of this project, which is quite basic because it's an example project, but Well, it's a really cool thing, in my opinion, that you can just do that without having to think about how to set up anything. Okay, and for more experienced Vim users, you most likely know this already, but you have key bindings to navigate through the code. Okay, for example, let's say we have this import here, and we want to go to the file where this import comes from. In that case, you would press the key binding GF, which stands for go to file. And in this case, it's a strange path, and it cannot find it, but normally it will take you directly to the file. Let's try with this. Yeah, this can do. So that's very cool. It's something you are used to do with your mouse, probably, if you are using something that is not Vim. But I found that if you need to switch between your keyboard and your mouse too often, in the end you are losing a lot of well, you are doing more effort than you should. That's my opinion, right? You probably have yours, but it's an option you have. Okay, and you have other cool key bindings apart from going to file. You also have GD, which stands for go to definition. We don't have any definition here, so I'm. Oh yeah, we have. So that brings me to the definition of this thing I have under my cursor. And I think to recall, you also have this. This is a custom key binding of this theme, by the way. You have go. Yeah, go. GH I had to show the documentation of the method or the class or anything you have under your cursor. Okay, obviously these things don't always work. For example, if you don't have comments, I mean, it's not gonna be able to show you that, but normally you can use that. Okay, and that's different from the documentation I show you before, right? We are speaking here about documentation inside of the code. So let's move on to the next thing. And really, this was the big part, the part that turns Vim into a development environment. And now you have other cool stuff. Okay, you have Vim Fugitive. What this thing does is to integrate Git. Let's try to use Vim Fugitive with this project. Okay, and let's make a change to this line, for example, and now you can see this is showing the diff with the changes we are doing, and this is very useful when you are gonna submit commits, because you don't want to have everything over the place. You want to be very specific about the lines you're gonna be committing. Now, what other thing we have with Vim Fugitive? You can press V to show the commits. You can go to the GitHub page of this project you have here. Let's try that. Let's try to press H, and this thing open the Git page of the project. This is super handy. Actually, I don't use it that much, but it's something really cool to have. And well, you have other things. Okay, you have merge tool. You have this is my favorite. This is a Git client. This is an independent application. This is not part of Git, of Vim, sorry, but I have it integrated here because I use it all the time. You have blame, and this is actually a different plugin I have it here. Let me show you. This plugin is neural. And what does neural does? Well, let's try it. Let's try it in a new file. And in this new file, let's say neural write an example C class for me. Sorry, and that's a bad thing. I don't have my key available right now, but this is basically ChatGPT integrated. Okay, this is gonna write an example method for you, or whatever you ask it is gonna write it. Obviously it's not perfect, it's the same thing you have in ChatGPT, so use it carefully. And what else do we have here? This part, I love this part. Let me show you. For this, I'm gonna be opening some personal notes I have from way back in the day, okay? So if I press Control N in my MD document, this is gonna work fine with any markdown document. So I'm gonna press it, and this thing opens the markdown file correctly structured in a web format, which is way nicer to navigate. You also have an index here and everything. So that's really cool to read your personal documentation you write for yourself, like your backlog. But this is the coolest thing. If you press Control E instead, what this is gonna give you is a mental map. Okay, and it's an interactive mental map. So this is a big stream, I recognize, but I don't use it that often either. But if you are really into organizing your stuff, you will probably love this. Well, some of the plugins are not something you use actively. Like for example, this one just generate the vin tags, which is necessary for the things we were doing before, right? Like going to definition, going to file. You need to have this in order to be able to use it. You have code snippets, which I don't use, but I have it there just in case I need to do something super repetitive. Vin control obsession, well, that's nothing special really, just for managing your sessions, which is something you should be doing, by the way. It's a good way to have your files and backlogs and everything ordered by project. So that's a pretty cool plugin. I used to use that all the time with Sublime Text back in the day, so I cannot live without it anymore. Zen mode is really something I don't normally use either, but is this, okay? It's just so you don't get distracted, you have that format to read code. And this is another very important thing. Okay, these two, FSF and FAR. If I press lead, you can see the letter A correspond with search and replace. And if I press search and replace, you have several options you have here. The one I use the most, let's see if I have it here. Yes, is the letter S, which is search inside of the project. Okay, what this is gonna do, by the way, in order to make this work correctly, you need to do cd. Okay, this is gonna define, by the way, why is this on my personal directory. That's strange. So in order to show you better, let's do it in the example project I have here. Okay, let's do it again. Let's do cd this directory. Okay, here we are. So let's do it again. Search in project. Let's say I want to search, I don't know, for something I have, for a phrase I have somewhere in the project, but I don't know where it is. So let's look for the HTML title of something. Okay, so I was specifically thinking in this file. Here it is. You see, this idea I took it from WebStorm. Like an old coworker of mine used that program to code, and that feature I found it so useful. So I bring it here through that plugin, and you have other ways to find, right? You have other ways to find, but apart from that one, that is the one I use all the time, the other important one is replace in file or replace in project, right? Because normally when you replace in file, it's better to just do it like this, right? With the command like this. You would do, for example, I want to replace body for, I don't know, any word you want, right? But if you want to replace an entire project, that's a more delicate thing. And in order to do that, I use a tool called var. Okay, let's say I want to look for the word foo and I want to replace it for bar, but I want to do it in the entire project. And because it's a very delicate operation, this is gonna show me all the files of the project where it's gonna apply this change, so I can accept them or not one by one, because maybe there's an exception where I don't want to apply this change. When I decide, you would just confirm replace. Okay, with you insert var do, and it's done. A good idea to be careful, because I don't think there is an easy way to undo this thing here in Vim or in any other editor, because this is, well, a big operation. So be careful when you use that. And going back to the config, I don't think we have anything else here apart of, well, this is just something funny or cool. Let's say I have, well, let's do like this. Okay, so I'm gonna copy into the buffer this and this. Okay, and if I want to go back to the things I've copied in the past, and well, that will be all. That is all the plugins I normally use in Vim. I think it's quite intuitive. It's not something scary. So that fame Vim has about being difficult or being pro or whatever, I don't think is very justified. It's just a tool you use for the things you want to use. And by the way, one important reason why I use Vim, probably the most important reason, is in case you have a need where you cannot find a plugin, you just write your plugin, okay, like I did with the tought one. You see, you only have a couple files in a plugin. It's very simple. You have the entry point and you have like the body of it. And this specific plugin, which is quite complex, I would say, it's only 300 lines. So it's not something super difficult. It's very easy to hack, very easy to use. So I hope you like this video, or you find it useful at least. I will be updating the config with well, instructions to use it easily. This plugin is, by the way, based on, let's see if I can find it. It's based on the GitHub Vim Ultimate config. I think it was the name. And this project was very popular for some reason, probably because of the name, right? And I took this as a base, but I basically clean up the things I don't consider are of my taste or not very useful. Like, for example, here this guy uses nerd tree, which some people prefer, but as you saw before, if you press lead R, I'm using Ranger, which is I think a way more powerful tool for searching anything. So yeah, take a look into this project too. Maybe you can get some ideas from here too, combine both of them. And that's it. Thank you for watching. I want to speak, before you go, I want to speak about some videos I like to do in the future, specifically about automation for things I've been working on in the past. Basically, QA automation, full stack development, and DevOps are things I've been doing in the past. And there are many repetitive tasks you normally do when you are doing, when you are working in those positions. And I think it will be worthwhile to get into that, get into ways you can avoid performing repetitive tasks over and over again in your projects. So you just automate them with the scripts and things go better normally. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.